I don't know why it's in my spirit to share more in regards to the homeless situation. I think I just want to dispel some of the misconceptions that are out there. Whether you support or you don't support or don't have an opinion either way, I think the truth needs to be put out there in regards to the homeless situation. I'm going to talk about two different things. First thing I'm going to talk about is the situation in regards to them having access to services. Now, services in every city, community, county in the U.S. is not the same. When I was living in New England and I required services, fortunately, they had 24-hour live-in facilities for people 365 days a year for you to live in. And they also had additional services and programs for you to get back on your feet. If you wanted to get your GED, if you wanted to improve your computer skills, if you wanted to get a job. Some of them even had jobs that were associated with the organization, like carpentry and culinary, that can help with the program itself. If you wanted to go back to college, if you wanted some kind of assistance for college, because a lot of the people that were involved in the programs, they were able to tap into resources that were very seldom published, that they will be able to get money to go to school because of their station. So there's a lot of information, hidden information that a lot of people don't know about, where they can kind of just pull themselves up and allow, and be on the road to self-sufficiency. However, like for instance, in the region that I'm in, they don't have anything remotely close to that. And I stated before, a lot of the facilities are run by government funding. However, the needs for the facilities are also based on the demand. So in my particular area that I live in now, the homelessness rate is nowhere nearly as high as it was when I was living in New England. Nowhere nearly as high. So the demand wasn't there. It was a supply and demand situation. However, with the pandemic bringing those numbers up, it looks like there is a demand now. The few facilities that we have, and I think there's only one or two in the entire Eastern Virginia area that has 24-hour facilities, but they're not even available 365 days a year. I think they're just available like maybe in the winter time, so people could come out of the elements. But the couple of places that are available, they may be open just for sleeping accommodations. Once the day service center, they call them day centers here, and they're usually places during the day for people to go to where they can get meals, and somebody, medical staff might be there. They might be able to get a hot shower or some clothing or some resources, but they close down around supper time. So there's only maybe a handful of places, and I don't know all the details, but there may be a handful of places, if that offer overnight accommodations. And as I stated before, it may not be a 365-day-a-year situation. I know one in particular in my area does not offer overnight accommodations until the winter time. In here, winter is only the 3 months, December, January, February, as far as cold weather. And then they'll open up, I think, probably 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and then around the same time the next morning, everyone has to vacate the premises, and the place is vacated and closed. So they will, do this thing where they go to the day center, get whatever they need to get during the day, and then at night they'll go to that facility. But that's only 3 months out of a 9-month year. So the other 9 months, you usually see them at night, over, in the parks, or on the grass near busy intersections and things like that. They have very strict rules with the transit companies as far as sleeping in bus shelters here. They do, I don't know if there's a law against that, but I have not seen anyone sleeping at a bus shelter in this region, and I think it's because I think it's considered a criminal offense, because I haven't seen anyone sleeping at night in a bus shelter. They'll hang out till a certain time, but then after that they have to go. So those shelters are considered property of the transit authority, and they have very strict rules about that. But in some cities it's okay. They're allowed to sleep in the terminals and that type of thing. It just depends on where you are. You do have the people that are outside, the ones that don't go to the day centers. These are the street hustlers. They go to the busy intersections with the signs and they make whatever money they need to make. But as the demand increases, I'm sure there's going to be something that's going to be opening up to help people that will allow them 24-hour access to services at all times in order to reduce the population of people that are out here. And I'm going to tell you a little story of a very innovative situation. And I have to shout out to the city. I don't know if this was the city of Chicago's decision or the state of Illinois, but I shared with you a while back that I worked through a contract agency with the Chicago Board of Elections, and the Chicago Board of Elections is the voter registration office for the city of Chicago, and it's a huge system. I was overwhelmed by the time I came in the door how massive it was and how detailed of an organization it was. I'd never seen a voter registration system like that. And being part of this contract organization, what they'll do is they know if there are elections coming up several months ahead of time, they'll go ahead and they'll contract their work out to different companies to get extra people to do data entry for the registrations, because it's all about getting those registrations up to date prior to the election so people could have the ability to vote. And I'm going to tell you something. Chicagoans do not play when it comes to voting. They are serious about their voting rights. And what I found out that a lot of people that were homeless in Chicago, and I'm talking about living on the streets homeless, they are still interested in having a voice. They are still interested in voter registration. But I found out one of the reasons why. One of the things that I thought was really cool with the Chicago Board of Elections is they allow homeless people to get IDs by using the address of the voter registration office. Now, let me tell you how this works. What happens is of course, guys know if you ever want to get a state ID or a driver's license, you have to have proof of address, whether it's a piece of mail or a copy of a utility bill or whatever the case may be, whether it's online or in person, you have to have proof of address because that has to be on your ID. In order for someone on the streets to be able to have an address, they have to be able to go through the system. And unfortunately, if they don't have an ID, then they can't get services. And if they can't get services, then they can't qualify. And if they can't qualify, then ergo, it's just a catch-22 if they don't know what to do. So what the city of Chicago does is they allow homeless people who are interested in the voter registration process, they'll come in and say, I want to register to vote. And they'll go ahead and create a temporary registration based on the information that was given to them. My name is such and such, da 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 da. Okay. They give them temporary registration. So the next thing that person does, they take that temporary registration and they'll go register for something like it could be a library card, or if it's some kind of fitness club or something that requires a membership card. Anything that requires a membership card, they'll take that voter registration card because it has proof of address and their name on it and date of birth. They can go get some kind of registration card. In most cases, it's the library because it doesn't cost anything. And the library in Chicago, they'll go ahead and print up a card for you on site. And it's a hard laminated card. So that has even more details. So now they've got the temporary voter registration card and they got the library card. Well, that's good enough because both of them have proof of identification with the date of birth on there and the address. They take those two cards and now they can go over to the state identification office and get a state ID or a driver's license if they know how to drive. Once they get that ID, you and I both know that opens the gates. Then they could turn around and take that ID and go over to social services, get a case manager assigned to their case. Immediately they get Medicaid and they get food stamps. You got health and you got food. Boom. Case manager also sees that you're on the street. Emergency shelter services. Here we go. So they start going through the database and try to find out that there's emergency shelter services. They could be in the form of a rooming house in a neighborhood that's being funded by the government. It could be the form of a hotel. It could be one of those hotels that you see downtown, and little do you know, that's totally funded by the government. It could be continued accommodations at an extended stay or a hostel. You don't know. You've gotten the golden goose as far as you're concerned. So in one foul swoop, you were able to get yourself from going off the streets into living in accommodations, having food, and having health care services as well as an ID. And I thought this process was absolutely wonderful. If only, and if you don't have this in your jurisdiction and you have some kind of connection with maybe social services or maybe some of your public officials, suggest it to them. Have them reach out to the people in the state of Illinois. They probably have some kind of statute or have this written out as to how the process goes, because it's a great idea. Because once people see that they're back on their feet, they develop a better sense of self, and it's not long before, right before you know it, they've got themselves a job, they're contributing to society, they're a tax-paying citizen living in their own accommodations, just because the voter registration allowed homeless people to use an address. Something as simple as that. So I shout out to the city of Chicago in that regards, because I know Chicago, you get a bad rap when it comes to certain things. But I think I need to start talking about some of the good stuff. There were a lot of good things that went on up there. You got to understand, Chicago's a big city, and they're going to have big city problems just like LA and New York. And the big city problems are usually just confined to the big city. So if you're from a medium city or a small town, you're not going to understand why these things are constantly going on. And I just wanted to share something good about what they're doing. So kudos to the Board of Election. I understand the contract was terminated and all that good stuff, but things happen for a reason. Shout out to you guys. Keep up the good work. Keep contributing to the homelessness. Bottom line is that we have to be creative as a community when dealing with these problems. We have to be creative and try to help. Throwing a couple of dollars into somebody's bucket that's on the side of the road every single day, okay, you might think that helps, but that's not going to get them off the street. They need extensive help. I mean, if you want to do it and it makes you feel good, that's your good deed of the day, that's fine. But if you're thinking about the the problem as a whole, it ain't happening, people. They need an extensive system in place. So, that's just a suggestion, but I just wanted to share that with you guys about how that's done. How Providence has this, the live-in situation where they not only offer shelter and food, but they also offer programs to help people get back on their feet. It's about helping someone advance. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Peace to you all.